G'day guys, how's it going? Just bringing you my weekly update on Bitcoin. I thought I'd do it a little bit differently this week. What I'm going to do is go over what I said last week and what actually happened, and then have a look at what I'm seeing for the week coming up ahead. So what we'll do is we'll head to the charts, we'll get started. Righto, so here we are looking at Bitcoin from last week. This was, I think, the candle that I was actually doing my video on, so that works out beautifully. I'm just using the replay function to go back to that. I'd marked off this big daily ascending wedge, this daily supply, this 4-hour supply within it. The 4-hour fibs, the 61.8, lining up beautifully with those two levels. Daily demand zones down here, 4-hour demand zones down here, daily demand zone much lower at about 54, 55k. And like I said, what I was sort of expecting to see happen was a rejection from this zone and the 61.8, and then price to come down here. Now, I also said I wasn't going to take that trade because the risk reward, I wasn't happy with it. I think it was about a 1.9, so I did not place short orders there. And we got a beautiful short, right? Perfect rejection off that 61.8. The unfortunate part about last week is what I did do was take longs off these areas because I expected them to act as strong demand. This one did hold a bounce. I moved my stop loss up on it, so that was all right. Didn't take that much of a loss. The other two, just I think I took the full 1%, which is rare. That doesn't happen that often for me. So bit unexpected, or not unexpected, because it is part of trading. But it was, it wasn't a great week for me last week in terms of my trading, or at least my trading on Bitcoin. I had some pretty good success in other areas. Probably the hardest part to deal with was after copying those losses. I had a buy somewhere around here, I think. So to see that narrowly get missed and then price bounce, it was just a bit. Honestly, it wasn't hard. Like, it didn't really worry me, but I sort of had to laugh at it. So that was how last week played out. So yeah, did well calling the short, just didn't trade it. Did terribly calling the longs, but traded them. So it wasn't a great week for me. It happens. It's cool. So we are currently up to here. And so what I'll do is I'll head back out to the weeklies, give you guys a big picture view, and then I'll come back in. Righto, so here we are on the weeklies. You can see that last week was pretty bearish. We had a big bearish engulfing. There was a little bit of a wick at the bottom, so there was some buying power. Some buyers stepped in, but bear hammer the week before, bearish engulfing there. Not a great sign for Bitcoin. That said, it's got a lot of room to maneuver before it turns bearish. That's our last higher low. So until we break that, Bitcoin's still bullish on the weeklies. Really, it's sort of just consolidating. Like I said last week, we've now been in this area for probably 6 weeks. So probably consolidating is what we're doing at the moment. On the dailies, we have, let me just find my daily things. Sorry about that. I'll get rid of the weekly so it doesn't become a horrific mess, although that doesn't look great. What we're looking at on the dailies at the moment, we had that big ascending wedge, like I said, formed a new supply zone. I'll often find supply zones in pairs like that. And personally, I think we're probably likely to head down and see this 55k area tested. So like I said, I had buys there. I still got that buy there. But pretty bearish on the daily for Bitcoin, right? We've broken this sort of area, right? That was a decent area of support. That's now broken. So, I'm not saying we're entering a bear market, but I wouldn't be surprised to see more downside on Bitcoin for the next little while. We'll find buying support somewhere. That's how markets work. We're not going to go down forever. Personally, I think, that 55k area, there is a really nice 4-hour zone within that, down the bottom, which I'll show you guys now, that I'd love to get a buy off. I'm not sure if we'll get down there. This zone here, right? You can see it's a strong zone. We wicked into it beautifully. So that's about 51. I'm not really targeting there. I'm not, super confident we're going to head there or anything, but just an area to consider. So on the 4-hour, this is what I'm seeing. We have got these two supply zones up here, line up beautifully with the 50 fib. There's probably also a 4-hour sort of EQ level through there, right? So that is quite nice looking. That was not the right one. There we go, 4-hour EQ level in there. So that's sort of, these are the areas that I love to look for, right? To me, that's a bunch of selling pressure likely to be in the same area. Fib, horizontal level, supply level, this trend line. So if we do sort of, bounce up and then into it, just gives one more reason for people to be short there, people to be selling, or, buyers to be more cautious, and then there's less buying, a bit more selling, pushes price down. So I actually had my first short order filled yesterday, or overnight. I think I woke up to it right at the top of this wick, which is always nice to see. I do love to see my trades reject straight away. And I've got another one a bit higher up within that zone. I've also got longs off this zone, and I might not have placed my long off this bottom zone yet, but I probably should get that in just in case we do tank and have a big spike down. So those are sort of the areas that I'm watching at the moment. I like the look of this rejection. I do like the look of that. Sort of, market structures change, right? Once we broke this level, in fact, I actually said to a friend on a call last week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I was like, I'm not shorting again until we break 60k. And so, true to my word, I didn't. But now that we've broken 60k, I am quite happy to be going short again. I really like this area to be going short from. Hence, I'm short. That's pretty much it. That's really it. I'm short from there. I'm happy to be taking longs from here. And that's sort of what I'm thinking for Bitcoin at the moment. So if I had to pick how I expect this week to go, I was sort of expecting us to head a little bit more into that zone. Could still see that, right? We could bounce up from there, reject off the trend line. But it's been a pretty solid rejection already. So we might just reject. Probably not going to go that steep, but come straight down to that demand zone without that sort of bounce up. As always, we could also just go bullish and, bounce from sort of here. There's a little bit of a level there. I wouldn't really consider it a strong one, but, bounce and start running. But I lean towards the bearish side at the moment. Not for the long term necessarily, but, over the next week, maybe a couple of weeks, we shall see. You guys will hear from me next Monday anyway if things change. So that's it for me from this week. Hope you guys are all having a ripper. Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you have a ripper week trading. And I will see you guys very soon.